Connor, what's going on, bro?
What's up, Jack? Nice to meet you.
Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely, man. I've heard great things, so it's my pleasure.
Likewise, it's long overdue. I've been seeing you on Twitter for a while, and I know you're in the ghostwriting game, and we got a lot of mutual connections. But the interesting thing about having this podcast now is like, usually when I want to get to know somebody, most people will hop on a call, but I'm like, let's just hop on a podcast. Like, let's just do it live publicly.
Two birds, one stone.
Exactly. But yeah, let's like jump right into it, dude. So I was reading through your backstory a little bit, and you had a thread about like going from part-time English teacher making 19 bucks an hour to now a full-time internet entrepreneur, writer, ghostwriter. So tell me that story. How did this all happen?
Sure. I'm trying to think of exactly where it started. Like, long story short, like start of COVID, I knew I wanted to make money online. It became like abundantly clear, like, okay, I have to make money online because I want to go travel in Europe and I want to go to Germany, be able to speak German. So I was like, all right, how do I make money online? And I had once met this guy, Dell, in England, this British guy. And like every once in a while, we had this like group of friends and he'd leave and be like, dude, where are you always going? He's like, oh, I got to teach my Chinese students. What do you mean you're Chinese students? He's like, yeah, dude, you can teach Chinese kids online. And I'm like, are you for real? And I just Googled that day, teach Chinese kids online, no degree, because I hadn't graduated yet. And got a job like immediately. This was like during the golden era before CCP cracked down on it. Now Americans are not allowed to teach Chinese kids anymore, but which is total shame because it was a great part-time job. But I got that, started teaching Chinese kids online, started thinking about, okay, how am I going to do this thing? And then I won this Fulbright scholarship from the US State Department. But then COVID pushed it away, pushed it away, pushed it away. So now I'm like, all right, I'm trading my time for money. It's like, fuck it, I'm going to Croatia. So it's like I knew Croatia's like Eastern Europe, so it was like I could probably afford to go there. Got an apartment in the heart of Croatia. Then I went on this long travel. We don't need to break into all that, but like the really big thing that happened to me in Croatia was I found Naval, and it was just like, okay, yeah, this is cool. Like that's what I want to do. So I didn't really take that much action right away, but for like 5, 6 months, bro, I just started reading like every book Naval recommended. All right, not every, but like literally over 100 books that Naval recommended, and just read and listened to Naval for like, I don't know how long, but, and then until it was like really stuck in. It was just, his ideas just blew my brains out. And it was just like, okay, yeah, like I really see this and I really believe this now. And I think that was the big first step, was being like, shit, okay, I believe I can do this in a cool way, have it be fun, learn cool stuff with cool people. And that was the big catalyst for all this.
How did you find Naval originally?
Akira the Don. I don't know if you know him.
No, I don't.
So one time, at the same time I was teaching the Chinese kids English, I got a little bit into like Jordan Peterson, self-help stuff, stoicism. This was like my first little foray into fixing myself a bit. I'm still working on it, but and then Akira the Don, I just was like Googling Jordan Peterson on YouTube, wanted to watch one of his lectures or something. And then it said Jordan Peterson lo-fi. I was like, oh shit, that's cool. So I listened to some Jordan Peterson lo-fi from this guy, Akira the Don. So my Spotify, I guess, knew that I liked this stuff. And then it was like a song with Naval and beats. And that was the first thing. And like the first line of when Akira chopped up Naval was, everyone vaguely knows they want to be wealthy, but they don't have a good set of principles to do it by. And I was just like, freeze. I was like, wait, do I want to be wealthy? Because the whole time I was like, yeah, I don't care about money. I was at university. It's very like environment where it's cool to not care about money. And that was like, that was my vibe until I was like, wait a second, fuck yeah, I want it. Like, I want to try this thing. Like, it's cool. And then, yeah, that was pretty much it. That was the start.
That's super interesting how Jordan Peterson kind of led into Naval for you, because it was kind of the same thing for me. I started to
Really?
get really into Jordan Peterson self-help too around, I'd say probably like a year and a half ago. And I
Mm-hmm.
found him through Joe Rogan. And then I
Sure.
found Naval also through Joe Rogan. I remember watching that episode, came up in my recommended, and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I just stumbled across a gold mine. Like, how have I never heard of this guy before? And similar to you, I got the almanac of Naval. In the back of there, he has like all those book recommendations. I probably read like, I haven't probably read 100 of them like you, but I did read a decent amount. But
Fuck yeah.
yeah, man. Like once you understand those principles and actually digest them, you're like, wait, why can't I do this? And he talks about, he's like, everybody has the potential to become wealthy, right? If you are listening to this podcast, you can create the mediums that access wealth. And wealth may not look like $150,000 salary. Wealth may look like, oh, I have control over my time. I'm able to make money online, live where I want. And so I guess that probably stood out to you a lot of like the location freedom when using the internet. So I got to ask, like, why did you have this inclination for Germany in the first place?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that. But just one last thing about what you just said, gold mine. I think that's the perfect word to describe how I felt when I found Naval Ravikant. It was just like, oh my God, like where was this? And it's just what that led to was nuts. So if anyone is listening to this and they have not yet dove into Naval stuff, like just please, like that's the way. Like there's really two best business resources, in my opinion. If I could only, like one of my students, I still teach part-time in Germany, actually 12 hours a week at like a local high school. It's pretty fun. And one of my students the other day asked me, like, how do I get started in online business? And he was like, really, really wants, I can really tell. So I sent him an email with Naval. I was like, this is the high level ideas. Like you need to understand these. And then Alex Hermosi, acquisition.com offers course like that. Like
Yeah.
that's the high level and the tactical, in my opinion. Like everything else is like the Twitter feed is not the best place, you know, because it's a lot of it's regurgitated, but
No. And I'll add one person to those two. I think those two are like the big players that like they're going to give you all the secrets and principles to pursue entrepreneurship and online business. But I think if you're really interested in getting in like the creator game and the creator economy, Dan Coe is like the guy I look to is like, this guy has figured it all out, right? And if you kind of like reverse engineer his principles and then couple it with Naval and Hormozi's philosophies, which I feel like he's probably done too, like you could be successful in a year or less.
appreciate that. Yeah, I got to go more down the Dan Coe rabbit hole. I know a lot of people love him. Like from what I've read a few letters from him. They're great. Just, yeah, it's like, it's a lot of it's timing too, when you get the message, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
But anyway, you want to go down that Germany rabbit hole?
Yeah, I'd love to. Let's
Yeah,
do
dude.
it.
So I always wanted to learn German my whole fucking life. Like I felt so German in America because my dad, like our last name is Wittmeier. This is obviously a German name. My dad, he never spoke German. No one in my family spoke German, but he was very proud to be German. It was just this funny thing, funny dynamic in our house. And so I felt super attached to Germany. But, you know, I literally didn't know anyone who spoke German. I had almost failed my high school Italian class. So I thought I'm just bad at learning languages. We'll get back to that in a second though. And then one day my mom sent me on this Outward Bound course, which was like this wilderness training course in Utah and Colorado for like 3 weeks after my freshman year of college. Super dope, man. Outward Bound. Really recommend. And the first day I saw this beautiful girl in the hotel lobby and I was like, I think she's with our group. So I went out to talk to her and she was like reading a book. I was like, oh, what book? And I was like, wait, what language is that? She's like, it's German. And she had a full American accent. So I was like, how do you learn German? She's like, I don't know. I learned German as a kid. I'm like, what? Because I literally didn't know any other American who had done it. And then I was just like, fuck it. Like after this trip, I'm doing it. And like for those 3 weeks, you know, she taught me a few German lullabies and like the basics, like ich bin, I am, like this type of stuff. And then, dude, I just sent it. Like I basically, like at that point, I was still trying to become an investment banker, management consultant type, one of those things. I'm from outside of New York City. Where are you from, by the way?
I'm from Chicago and I was headed down the exact same path. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? Like that's the high status, well paying. Like you see why it's attractive, but like it didn't fit my personality. I'm sure it didn't really fit yours either, right? We're a bit more creative, maybe. I don't know what those people are like, but just wasn't for me. And I was like, it took a ton of courage for me to sort of say like, all right, fuck, I'm doing the Germany thing. And one really lucky thing that happened to me was winning that Fulbright scholarship after college, because I'm not sure if you've heard of it. I hadn't really heard of it, but it's like one of the most prestigious scholarships in the world. It's like the US government founded it after World War II to, you know, sort of rebuild networks with other countries, so to say. And so then I could like, it's embarrassing to say now, but then I could like still be like, yeah, well, I'm doing Fulbright, like as opposed to like doing the banking route, you know?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, and so I'm super grateful for that. So that's actually been how I've lived here the last 2 years, is because I get like a stipend from the government to be at the school.
Oh, very cool. And I'm actually German myself, a tad
Let's
bit.
go.
So yeah, we have some type of relation there. But are you like 100% German, or do you have some other stuff mixed in?
Half Irish German.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
always been, I'm like 15 different things, dude. So I've always been a
sure.
bit envious of the people who have like such a strong tie to a country or a nationality, because for you, it was like, yeah, I feel proud to be German. I'm going to go live there, right? I'm kind of like a little bit Italian, German, Swedish, Russian, everything else in between. So I don't
Yeah,
have that strong tie. But yeah, I mean, let's dive a little bit into the learning the language piece, because I'm
yeah.
in Argentina right now for context, and my Spanish is probably at like a preschool level. Like it's not good
Good
at
shit,
all.
man.
And I have this belief, thanks, bro. I have this belief that like I'm not good at learning languages. And so
Fuck
it's
that.
interesting to hear that you say the same thing, but now you're fluent in German and Mandarin, right? If I researched correctly.
Sure that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Dude, fuck that. I hate that false belief. It probably came from school, right? How was your language class in school?
Yeah, so we had to start picking a language back in sixth grade, and we would take a language. We could either do Spanish, German, or French. And I chose Spanish because I don't know, it seemed the easiest. Everybody else was doing it. But the problem is, I didn't really take it very seriously. And it's been like on and off for the last 10 years. So, yeah, tell me like how you immersed yourself in it and like shed that belief.
Yeah. So if you want, like after this, like another day, I'm very happy to sit down with you for like a half hour, 45 minutes, and I'll lay you down exactly what you need to do. Like I'll give you like a daily checklist. And like I'll be like, Jack, if you follow this for 3 months, you'll be fluent. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. That's the first thing.
Interesting.
We can do that on another day. But like no matter what you think about your language skills, because I know you're an intelligent person, right? Based on your writing, based on everything you're doing. So that's not even a question whether or not you can learn Spanish. Are we on the same page with that?
Yeah,
Like definitely, you definitely
100%.
believe that you can learn Spanish.
I do believe I can, but it's a question of if I really want to. And the
That's fair.
reason
Yeah,
I'm
that's fair.
saying that right now is like, okay, I've been doing this full-time entrepreneurship stuff for about a month now. And I want to make sure like I take this seriously. This is the priority. And down the line, like maybe once I have more of my financial needs met and everything, like I would want to invest more time in learning a language. But right now it's like I want to invest as much in my own growth as an entrepreneur as possible. But also like that might just be a limiting belief. So I don't know.
That's fair. That's a different discussion. I think there's two sides to that, right? Like when I started the ghostwriting, I dropped learning Chinese and I went like hard for like 9 months, like no languages. Part of me thinks maybe that was smart, right? Because I'd read this book, Essentialism. I don't know if you've seen that diagram of like
Yes. I just read it like last week. And so that's why it's so fresh in my head.
yeah, I also think like, I mean, like what are you going to write? Are you going to like be a ghostwriter for like 9 hours a day? Probably not, right? Like I think there's space for other things in life. Like I think I took that book a little too seriously, but I do agree. There is a point to it. There is definitely like do less but better, 100%. Like that's the
Mhm.
case. All right, but should I just give like a basic overview of how to learn languages? Is that like, would that be helpful or?
Yeah, I'd love to hear that. And maybe like your mindset in terms of shattering your limiting belief.
Yeah, so the mindset was just doing it, and like I've wasted a lot of not wasted a lot of time, but I made a lot of mistakes with learning German. Like I learned Chinese faster than I learned German. My German's still better than my Chinese, but like I can make friends in Chinese, it's like it's easy.
Wow.
And it's like it took way less time than German, which is in the same language family as English. Everyone would assume German is easier than Chinese, right? But because I had learned the skill set, it was much easier. So like the big thing, dude, and the reason Americans especially suck at learning languages is comprehensible input, right? This is not from me. This is from Stephen Krashen or Kraken. I can't remember always how to say his name. He's a neuroscientist from America. Did a lot of research on this. And like literally the number one thing is comprehensible input. Are you listening? Are you consuming the language, right? And that's why if you go to Europe, people speak English, right? Germans speak English. Swedes speak English. Why? Because, dude, from a young age, they're watching American movies, listening to American music. They have it in school, right? And what you're doing in school is way more effective if you have that input, right? It all starts with the input. So that's like the number one thing is realizing like, okay, the reason school's language sucked is because we didn't start with input. We started with grammar, right? Grammar is the worst place to start. The best place to start is input. And then be like, hey, I think I'm noticing a pattern in there. And then just like literally Google, like, what does this thing do in Spanish? Right. And then it's just like, you just Google it and you're like, oh, okay. Yep. And it's so much more impactful when you actually have that input. Like your brain is like a sponge. And if it doesn't get any Spanish water, it will never be able to fill up. Does that make sense? Like the big idea is comprehensible input.
100%. And that was something I noticed when I backpacked through Europe this summer is everybody spoke English. And I would always ask them how. They're like, yeah, I've been listening to English music for my whole life. I've watched movies my whole life. But since we're from America, it's like, yeah, obviously we're listening to it in English. I'm not going to go and like read a book in Spanish or like listen to, okay, maybe like a song like Despacito or something. But that's probably like the extent of my inputs in another language. So yeah, it makes complete sense.
You see, that's what I did with German. Like I only watched stuff in German. I only read German books. I only listen to podcasts. And like it takes, like it's annoying, right? Because all the best content's in English to begin with, right? But it's like if you like really want it, right? No one has to do this. But if you're like, I really want to learn this one language for this specific reason, then it's input. That's the solution. And at first it sucks, right? Because you got to listen to like kindergarten stuff. But that's literally the solution.
Interesting. And a thing that's coming up in my head, because we talked about Naval, is he talks about like it's more important to know and be able to convey using simple English to convey an idea than learn a bunch of different languages. So like, what would your thought process be around that argument?
Like, well, Naval, I know exactly what quote you're talking about. I think what he's saying there is like, if you're trying to build wealth, right? That's a very important caveat. Like not everyone's trying to build wealth. We are. And like, there are other things to life, right? Like it's just fucking fun to go speak to Chinese people in Chinese. Like it's awesome. I get a rush. Like it's
yeah,
like super fun. And I really hated the feeling like I felt super insecure being around Europeans as monolingual. I felt like I was dumb. Obviously it's a false belief, but it's just like, all right, let's just solve it. Like, let's just get bilingual. Like, I don't want to feel that way ever again in my life. So I was like, yeah, that was part of it.
Dude, you're inspiring me to maybe start to change my beliefs around this, because I've been in that really single-minded belief of like, okay, like what's the most important thing right now? It's building wealth, kind of like we said. But every time I go to a cafe here or every time I order at a restaurant, I feel dumb because I can't convey what I'm actually thinking. And I've been going to the same couple cafes in my neighborhood for the past month or so since I've been here. And I've become like sort of friends with the baristas and people that work there, but I can't deepen any relationship because I can't say anything more than like, how are you? Or like, I'm doing good. How are you? And
that's right.
It does make you feel a bit dumb. So dude, yeah, you're already shattering my beliefs around this stuff.
I love to hear that, man. Like, and it's like, most people, they overestimate how much of the language you need to know. If you learn the 2000 most common Spanish words, if you listen to 30 minutes of podcasts a day, if you buy a tutor for like $10 an hour for like 2 to 3 hours a week, give me 3 months, you'll be fluent. Swear to God.
Wow. I guess
but I mean by fluent is like you don't need to know how to talk about rockets. You know, you need to talk about like, hey, how you doing? Like, what's up? All right, oh, that's really cool. You're from here? All right, I'm not from, you know, like then it's like it's 80-20. Absolute language is the most 80-20 thing out there, right?
Yeah. And can you break down 80-20? Like, what is that for people that don't know what that is?
Yeah, just I think I learned this first from university. This is like
wow, how about that?
I know. Like, you know, when quite often, like I'll talk it in this way. I think perfectionism like stops a lot of people. And what happened to me many times is like, oh, like that's gonna be so hard, you know, to learn German. I'm gonna have to learn like there's 48,000 words in the German language, but like it's actually like, okay, if you know 2,000 German words, you're chilling. You know, so it's like the 20% of the language that is used in 80% of conversations is the most important. If you master that 20%, this is, I'm sure you know, Jack, but if like this is very, very true for a lot of things, right? In sales, you don't need to be the best salesman in the world. You need to understand, okay, people, whatever, like human nature, like stuff. If you get that 20%, like you're chilling for a lot of things. Not, of course, there are some times where details are important, but was that a good explanation, or would you describe it better or another way?
No, I think it is. I think it's a good explanation. I would reframe it in like a fitness context for people out there to understand it. Like, yeah, you can focus on like supplementation and doing all these little things like eating the exact amount of protein at the right
Yeah.
time for like maximum gains. But that's like the little 20% that's going to get you to the next level. The 80% is like sleep good, exercise, walk, like get sunlight. Like those things are the 80%. And that's really what makes up the bulk of it. But relating it back to language, I think you said something of like, I have this belief that it's going to be so hard and it feels so uncomfortable, but I guess that is just a false belief. And I know I was reading about this the other day. I don't know where, but it basically was talking about like we understand reality through our language, right? And so we can only understand reality to the point that our words or the vocabulary we know allows us to. So for you, like learning these two other language, has your perception of reality become more well-rounded by knowing new vocabulary and new languages?
If anything, it's made me have more empathy. No, it's like the bad way. That's a bad way for me. It's made me think, it's made me realize how similar we are actually, right? You'd expect Chinese to be like crazy different than English. Bro, it's almost the same. Like there's not that many words in Chinese that we don't like, you know what I mean? It's like, and so it's like the sentence structure of Chinese and like what you can do with Chinese, you can do with English is almost the same, right? That's not exactly true for every language, like Arabic and I think Korean, like they have like different sentence structures, right? Like Chinese is still subject, verb, object. I go to China. 我去中国, right? I go to China, right? But like, 我去, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. My brain's not in the mood right now. I actually had class right before this with my teacher Coral on italki, dude. $9 for 45 minutes. She's an excellent teacher, like better than a high school teacher. I'm just gonna open my door real quick. I'm getting like super hot. Do you mind?
No, go for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry. Where were we on that? I got a little distracted because I was hot.
No, no worries. I think this would be probably a great point to transition more into like the money Twitter stuff and the
Let's
wealth
do it,
building
man.
stuff. So
Let's
yeah,
do it.
tell me. So you start to find Naval, you start to understand the principles of building wealth. So what led you to, from that moment, to start writing online?
To start writing online. When did I start writing? Oh, okay. So this was pretty cool. I went to Southern California, Manhattan Beach, which is like part of LA. And I was living on my friend Derek's couch and teaching the Chinese kids, reading, whatever, walking, and waiting for my Fulbright year to start because it had gotten pushed because of COVID. And I noticed like he was always talking to people over LinkedIn, like alumni from his school, and I was like, dude, where are you meeting these mentors? And he's like, oh, I just cold DM them, right? And they get on. I'm like, oh shit, really? So he's just like cold DMing all these smart, successful people, and they're just giving him his time. So then there was this really new but important scholarship in China called Schwartzman Scholar from Steve Schwartzman, and I was like, I want that. It's the Rhodes Scholar in Britain.
I don't know.
No worries. It's like the most exclusive scholarship to go to England, basically. And like
Okay.
it attracts people from all over the world. And it's China's answer to that is basically Schwartzman Scholarship. And it's only like 7 something years old. And if you go on their website, it's like all these American politicians, all these like global leaders. And it's like, oh shit. So I was like, fuck, maybe I'll get it. Maybe I'll get early. So I just started cold DMing. Like the admin officers. I didn't end up not getting the scholarship, but I did get these 5 reflection questions from one of them. This guy, Fernando, I think his name was, or Francisco. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember coming away from that reflection section and being like, okay, I need to write better. Like for what I want to do in my life. I think, like I said, like I want to have an impact or something. Like I want to like help other people reach their potential. I was like, well, I understand leverage now. It's like, okay, so I need to be able to write well. And it's like, how do I write well? It's like shots on goal. So like, okay, I'm starting a weekly blog now, right? And I just like did it. And I did the weekly blog for a long time before doing Twitter. I still way prefer to write newsletters over Twitter, but obviously Twitter has the distribution benefit. How about you, man? How did you get started writing?
Very similar to you, actually.
Really?
I feel like we're two of the only people that I know in this money Twitter space that started off with a newsletter or blog. And so how it happened for me, and I've told this story a couple times, but I was on a train in Europe backpacking from Madrid to Paris, like by myself. And I was just journaling a ton. I'd been journaling the whole trip and realizing, like, wow, I actually really like writing in depth. And I was listening to this book called Lynchpin, and it basically was talking about like the only reason you're not sharing your ideas with the world is because you're scared of people judging you. And I was like, fuck, like I got to start sharing my ideas. So I start sending this weekly newsletter just to like help people like with self-help stuff I was learning to like a couple family members and friends. And from there, I started sending it for like a month. Really no ideas of like where it would go or anything. And I found Dakota Robertson on Instagram,
Sure.
and I saw he was writing on Twitter. And then one of my friends was like, dude, you know this Dakota Robertson guy, like you should write on Twitter like him. Like you have very similar thoughts. I was like, shit, you're right. But I was scared as hell. And then from there, you know, you just overcome that little bit of anxiety, and then one thing leads to another. But yeah, I went newsletter to Twitter as well. And I'm curious if you think that was a competitive advantage for you, because for me, it feels like since I started with the long form newsletter, that is so much more difficult, I think, than writing a short tweet in a lot of ways, that moving over to Twitter seemed easy by comparison. But I think for starting on Twitter and then having to bridge it into like a 1,000-word newsletter, like that could be a bit tough.
It's an interesting question. I'm not sure if I have the answer. I will just say, to this day, I have a hard time writing threads. I do not like the format. I find it like constricting. So I was for a time I was doing LinkedIn. I'm honestly thinking about like almost never writing threads again and just writing like long tweets, like not thinking about like thread formatting. I just don't like it. I don't like how that feels.
Makes complete sense. Yeah, it is a bit constraining. And that's what I like about the newsletter. It's free flowing. You can kind of just see where it takes you. But for your newsletter, like what is the summary of it? Like what is the gist?
Yeah, that's been a problem. I don't know if it's a problem, but like that's also like been the benefit of it, right? I did try to monetize it for like a little bit, but like it's more just been like long term, I definitely want it to be sort of like the backbone of what I'm doing, you know, like
Yeah.
I really want to start driving more traffic to it, being more intentional about it, you know, doing cross promotions, whatever. But if I had to say like my biggest interests, they're kind of similar to yours, right? Like making money online in like a cool way that, you know, you can do for like 60 years, not like a cash grab type way. Persuasion, I find fascinating, like sales, all this stuff. And also a lot of the same things that work for sales are like the same principles for dating. So just persuasion in general, I find really interesting. And then, yeah, kind of like philosophy. So like maybe persuasion, philosophy, and online business would be, but sometimes, yeah, I just write about like the things I'm interested in. So that is, you know what I mean? There's pros and cons. If you leave it free flowing, I think that's much easier if you have like a larger presence, you know, but so we'll see how it develops. Right now, it's not my number one focus.
Yeah, I've had the same
answer. Yeah.
I've had the same kind of experience with it. Like I try to frame it as like, okay, like this newsletter is about fitness, online business, creator economy, but then it kind of changes and I write like more of a philosophical take on happiness. Or like the next week I'll write like some 10 neuroscience habits that'll like 10x your productivity. And it's tough to like pigeonhole it down, but I think that is kind of an advantage because then it lets your creativity just flow. And I think as long as you're not like really trying to monetize the newsletter yet, like it's such a long-term play that
right,
hopefully in 10 years, like you can be writing about whatever the hell you want. And that'll be the backbone of your content, like you said. So I like that approach.
Yeah, I think we're similar on that. I like that.
100%. And okay, I gotta ask this. So you said persuasion in sales is like dating in a lot of ways. Like break that down for me. How so?
Yeah. So I'm not like a huge tactics guy. So I'm not really going to go into tactics, but like a high level principle that I've learned from, you know, making mistakes with women or sales in general would be the person who needs the sale most loses it, right? Never need the sale essentially. And I think that's a principle which fits both categories quite well. Have you seen that dynamic in your life too?
Definitely. And I just recently read a book by Mark Manson called Models, and it was talking a ton about like vulnerability and non-neediness, and the guy who
Yeah.
comes across as super needy is never going to get the girl. Same thing with
Never.
sales, right? Like if you're like doing outreach and you're super needy, yeah, you're not going to close any deals. But if you come from a position of high value and like, I don't need you, but like I could help you if you want me, like it's the same thing. um
Absolutely.
I haven't been very active in the dating scene lately though, good, and it's similar to the my philosophy on like not learning another language. I've just been so locked in on this like online business stuff that
Yeah.
the other parts of my life have taken a bit of a back seat. But yeah, so
There's a place,
that's
time and place. I think
100%.
I think I can imagine like what your philosophy on that is, if you don't mind me guessing.
Yeah, no, let me hear it. I'm curious.
You're probably thinking like, like just develop myself, nail my bases, be high value, do it later. Is that like your thought on it?
Totally, to a
Yeah.
T, pretty
Yeah, I
much.
think that's solid. Like I think there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not huge on like you know, like American dating life, I think is pretty whack, like how we're like, yeah, right now, like Tinder. I don't think that's like a good social development or how things go at college.
Right.
Uh,
And something else that I've been like in a conflict with is finding people like very similar interests to me, because now,
yeah.
like, and I'm sure you've experienced this. We talked about this a little bit before the pod, like doing this online stuff, it can be a bit lonely because how many people do you know in your real life that are doing the same stuff? And how many girls are you going to meet in real life that are on the same wavelength with a lot of these things? And it's pretty limited. I think the cool thing about money Twitter is like guys like us are able to connect across the world, or like you're able to meet, like you met up with a bunch of money Twitter guys in you guys met up in the UK, or was it in Barcelona?
Barcelona, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's awesome. Like the internet allows for us to meet people with our similar interests. And I think dating could follow a similar structure, but right now it's like very superficial, surface level, constrained to geography, kind of like Tinder in these dating apps. But if it was maybe presented in a
Hmm.
more deep way of like deep interests, like kind of how we all became connected on money Twitter, I think that could be really cool.
That could be really cool. I like that idea. Yeah,
And so you have a girlfriend right now, right?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. Was this the girl you met who was reading in German, or was somebody else?
No, that girl's much older. She's probably like 30 now. I met Jean, who's my girlfriend now, when I was like 19. I was sitting on a patio in Germany, just like talking to my American friend Adrian, and she just came up and said, "Hey, what's up?"
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah, it was just, and then we knew each other for like, I was only in Munich for like a month, went back to New York, and then last year, um, just text her like, "Hey, where are you?" And we were like, "Oh shit, we live like an hour away from each other." Just yeah. But actually, she's in the money Twitter space now, bro. She just closed her first 4 call pack.
What? No, what is she doing in the money Twitter space?
Relationship coaching.
Oh, interesting.
So not like couples therapy, but just like speaking to young men, like kind of like you, like young men who are sort of like aware that like, okay, like what I'm trying, like playing that game, like I'm trying to become really high value and like understand what I want, become aware about what I have to offer, what I'm looking for. And she's also a psychologist by training, so it's like it kind of fits. And I'm so happy for her, man. Like she's hyped, like she's loving it. It's exactly what she wanted to do, and it's like that is an example. But it's, I think the where we're at right now and the struggle is, it's like still like if she wasn't dating me, that probably wouldn't happen, because I'm in
Mhm.
this thing, and it's the person I introduced her is from our group chat. Like I just knew there was a fit there, so it's like there's still some like big inefficiencies there, but I see the potential of like this whole thing like in like 10-15 years is just incredible. Like I feel really optimistic about this path we're all on. It's really fun.
I agree, dude. I am wildly optimistic about the direction this is all going. And the thing about the personal brands is like this is gonna live with us for as long as we live, right? And so we're so early. How old are you? Like early 20s?
Yeah, I'm 23, I guess mid 20s now.
Nah, I think you're still pretty early. But think about it this way, bro. Like in 10 years, you're still gonna be at like the start of your career, right? And like it's just so amazing to me that we'll be able to have these personal brands and be able to pivot and do whatever we want for the rest of our lives under the guise of our personal brands. And I think we're pretty early into this game. And I think like a
Yeah.
lot of people will be coming in as well.
Yeah, I don't think I appreciated that recently. Like I like obviously I like knew that, but you know, sometimes there's like this difference between knowing and like understanding. Have you ever felt that way?
Yes. And something that I've been struggling with myself recently is now that I'm doing this full time,
Mhm.
I get caught up in this unhealthy comparison to the people that are like way ahead of me, right? But then I
Fair.
step back and realize like, oh shit, I'm 21 years old. Like I'm just figuring all this out as we go. And once you kind of step back and you gain that awareness of, like it's a long journey. You can't expect to know this stuff overnight. I think that helps me put things in perspective and not have to rush so much.
Yeah, it's not a rush. I struggle with that too. And like once you kind of get out of scarcity money wise, it becomes a lot easier to like relax. Like when I talk to a lot of guys who are trying to take this path, and I can usually tell when someone's like having a hard time with money because they're just talking like really fast, and you can tell like they got blinders on, and like it's affecting their ability to think clearly and rationally. And I've been there, right? I'm not criticizing anyone. I've been there recently too. So it happens, but like, yeah, it comes back to never needing to sell again, right? Because if you put yourself in a way to where you need to need the sale, then it gets hard to get the sale, right? And like I have never been like that disciplined with spending. Like I didn't like grow up super rich or something, but like I never been like, oh, okay, like I'm not gonna buy this pizza or something. And that did kind of come bite me in the butt at some points because yeah, you have with this path is not secure, right? It's not a salary. It can be feast or famine sometimes. So yeah, just like a personal thing I'm really realizing is the like discipline equals freedom, but in terms of finances too. And that was just something that I recently realized, which obviously I've like knew that, right? Like you spend less than you earn, but it was like lessons learned the hard way tend to stick. I don't know. That was kind of a
Yeah.
tangent, but that was like something really recent that rocked my world.
Yeah, I think the scarcity mindset, I think it's a double-edged sword because there's been points where I've been really low in funds, and because I had so little money, I had to go figure out a way to make money. And I think that is
Fair.
kind of like what led me down this entrepreneurship path and like now being able to do this full time, which is still kind of crazy to me. But if I never put myself in those periods of like really needing to find a way to make money, I might have not taken as much action. But for you, like for the ghostwriting. So I know you're pivoting more so into ghostwriting coaching now. So like what's the philosophy around that? Is it more leverage? Is it more lucrative? Like why make this why make the pivot?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it's not only ghostwriting coaching. Three of my clients are for ghostwriting coaching. The other two are kind of like Twitter oriented, Twitter business slash writing slash branding. I don't know exactly how to position it just yet. But okay, so why? Dude, it's about following the energy. I have way more fun coaching than I do ghostwriting. And also, if I think about what are my natural skill sets, obviously right now, you know, it's just like it's more fun, dude. And yes, it is higher leverage. Like I didn't like think about it that um deeply when I made the decision. But if you think about it, right, you ghostwrite as one person. Let's say you can have 3 clients a month before you're like too much work, maybe 4. And then or you can teach people and they can all go have 3. You're literally like creating more value. But if you like go teach 3 people who can all have 3 clients, that's 9 people getting ghostwriters because of what you did, right? And you can charge a piece of that. So it is higher leverage for sure. But that wasn't like that wasn't the framework I thought about. I just thought about like, all right, I'm not loving the ghostwriting, right? And I I want to teach, dude. Like I like really, really thought about it. Like there are really only 3. If I could spend my time besides writing, it would be teaching, coaching, and selling. Right. Those are the 3 things that I find just the most fun. So yeah, that was basically how I thought about it.
I love the notion of follow the energy. And I'm assuming you're probably a pretty big Scott Adams fan. I'm gonna guess.
Bro, love Scott Adams. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So I was reading his book, How to Fail at Everything and Still Win Big. And I love, that was the one takeaway I really had from the book is follow your energy, notice what energizes you and go towards that. Like, don't worry as much about the money. And something I'm noticing for myself is kind of the complete inverse of you. So I have a hour-long coaching call in my bio. I'm not trying to plug it or anything on this podcast, but I have this in my bio for people that want any insight into like Twitter, into ghostwriting, how to grow an audience, whatever. And I notice every time somebody books it, even though I make $100, I feel drained. I'm like, oh, I have to do this call. And so that's kind of making me think maybe I should pivot out of that and maybe make things that can earn while I sleep, like products or courses, because the one-on-one coaching, at least when it relates to Twitter, is something that drains me. However, if I hop on a call with somebody and I'm giving more like life advice or like helping them achieve their goals, like in life or fitness, I feel energized as hell by that. So how do you, I guess something I'm struggling with though, is like, how do you monitor that energy? Is it a feeling in your body?
Flow.
Is it flow? Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Like some things give you flow, other things you feel like it's sucking your soul as you do it.
Go more into what flow means for you.
Like on a sales call, bro, I just get in flow. I love it, right? Like I'm like, all right, I'm trying to understand this person. I'm trying to build rapport with them. And I'm not even thinking these things. I just go, man. I just love it. Like I feel like I don't even know. Like I'm riding my bike and I'm having a good time. So that would be one thing. I do want to ask you like about the Twitter thing. Do you think it's about coaching or do you think it's about talking about this topic of Twitter? Where do you think that resistance is coming from? Because from this conversation, you strike me as somewhat extroverted, definitely good with people. So I'm surprised to hear you don't like the coaching calls.
I think you might be right. It's like it's the thing I'm teaching. I love coaching people and I love like helping people out and giving advice, but maybe because it's about like growing on Twitter, it doesn't feel that meaningful to me. So,
Well, let me ask you,
yeah.
Is there a way you could frame those calls so that you like it more, right? And it's still helping them, because all these like life stuff, are just as important, right? One of my Twitter coaching clients, bro, the first week we talked about scheduling his time, reducing his cheap dopamine, right? Like it was all that stuff because the first call was clarity, and to me, that's more important than any sort of like growth hacky stuff. It's like figuring out a way to like manage yourself.
I think that's a great perspective. No, I think it's a great challenge because that is so true. That it is so true. And I guess I maybe have this limiting belief around like, oh, who am I to like give people life advice? Like I'm 21 and like people always talk about like, oh, you don't want to be like the 21-year-old life coach, right? And I think that's maybe why it's like, okay, I know how to grow an audience on Twitter. That's why I'm framing it this way. But maybe opening it up to more life advice, philosophical advice might be better for myself and the people who buy it.
Absolutely. How do you run the calls, if you don't mind me asking?
So usually I just open it up to them and I'm like, you have my attention for an hour. Ask me any question you want.
That's great.
There's not much structure to it.
I think that sounds really good. Like that's what I would do too.
Interesting.
One thing that works really well though is if you get a Google form beforehand and send it to them. So then they're coming in prepared and you can basically just like, I can send you my form, you can just rip it basically, and because it like, then you're coming in with a lot more context. It's much easier. And like, I would honestly start by you asking them questions. So definitely like give them the chance, maybe be like, what's on your mind? Anything like super pressing right now before we dive into your form. And then, just dive into their goals, dive into the roadblocks. I think that will be more fun for you too, because if they don't even know, like I know if I'm thinking about when I was a beginner at Twitter, I would be asking like, how do I write a viral thread as soon as possible? Right? That's not even what they need, right? Like, so by structuring it with like a call, a Google form beforehand, or you can just put it in the Calendly and then guiding the conversation a tiny bit more, I think it will like make it way more enjoyable for you and more valuable for them.
I'm definitely going to look into that. I really appreciate that. And
You're welcome,
like
man.
for you getting into this coaching stuff, like what is the goal with it or what is the next step? Do you plan on keep doing one-on-one or like cohort or like what is the next move?
Yeah. So my goal, I'm trying to work in 90-day sprints. This is something I learned from Kieran, right? It's just like 2-year visions, 90-day sprints. And I basically already shattered my 90-day income goal in the first like 2 weeks since launching the coaching. So I could get greedy.
Congrats.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I was surprised, but I could get greedy. But all right, that's not to say I won't sign any new clients. If someone's like, Connor, like, please, I need your help. Like, we can talk. It's not a plug, but this is absolutely not a sales pitch, but I'm just talking to you about this. But I realized like, okay, let me just sit. And like when that happened, when I passed the income goal for the 90 days, it was just like, I was just writing down like, what can I do? What can I do? How should I be spending my time? I booked a lot of Chinese classes for the next few weeks because I have extra time now. And that's one thing. The other thing is like, I realized, bro, it's product. Like you just said, it's like, okay, no. Like, yes, I want to coach. Like I'll probably coach for the rest of my life. Like, even if it's just like with friends that are also doing these type of stuff, you know, it's like mastermind setting. The mastermind in Barcelona was fucking awesome. But it's like, what is the long-term play? It's something that's scalable with MRR, right? And that's not necessarily one-on-one coaching, not necessarily small. Like I have an intimate group, right? It's like 3 people in the ghostwriting cohort. And that's not, I also don't want to scale it, right? So I know that's not the infinite game. Like I like it, but it's not the infinite game. So I really realized like I need to start building product, whether that's just like an info product, something educational. But I'm kind of rambling now, but like, it was like, it really hit me. It's like, oh, okay, product, like MRR scalability, like what is that? So that's kind of what I'm like thinking about. I'm leaning towards paid community, although I'm not exactly sure did you see Hamza's paid community, bro?
Yes, I've been
Oh
funnel
my
hacking that guy a little bit.
God. How so?
Just like looking at his YouTube videos, like all the books he's read, like I'm on his email list. So I'm like, how is he structuring this? Like, how is he trying to get people to sign up? But yeah, he has this new private paid community it's like $500, right?
Yeah, there were like different tiers based on when people sign up, but I know he's making over 100K a month with it.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
That's insane. Yeah.
that's insane. But and dude, like it's definitely like I thought about signing up for it. I kind of like Hamza.
No, I do too, a lot.
Yeah.
So, okay, potentially a product, potentially a community. What do you think it would be structured around? Like, what would be the
Persuasion.
idea?
Definitely
Persuasion.
persuasion. I don't know whether that's wealth or relationships, but like that's that's the thing that I like that gives me a lot of energy. And I've definitely spent a ton of time like learning about, right?
Okay.
I've gotten better outcomes with, right? Like I used to be like literally afraid of girls. And my first sales call, I was shaking, right? And now those are 2 things that are easy for me. All right. That sounds cocky, but like 2 things that I feel comfortable with.
Yeah. And I mean, from my perspective, I would be interested in both of those things from you. Like that is such a niche thing because
Appreciate that.
most people just go and sell like a writing course or a Twitter growth course or something. And like those are great, right? Those do provide value.
Mhm.
But everybody does it. And everybody that's grown an audience on Twitter can probably sell that. But that specific knowledge, like that is going to separate you from all other courses. And that's something I've been struggling through. Like, okay, if I want to try to build a product or a course, what would I even build it around? And yeah, I'm still working through that and it's still early
Yeah.
and I don't want to rush it. But do you have like a timeline on all this?
I don't have a timeline, but I do know like, so there are like steps, so like MVPs, you know, if Jack, if you wanted to get into coaching, like if you're like, you know, I really want to do more coaching, I'll tell you exactly what you need to do. Just, and then we'll get back to the product in a second. It'll make sense why I'm doing this first. You would launch free calls, which you're already above. You would launch mid-ticket, like low ticket one-on-one calls, but you would note like really hard their pain points and their goals. You would take note of it and keep it master file of what are the pain points and goals. Then you would do a launch of a official paid call for more money with scarcity and urgency. Like in June, I'm taking 15 paid calls, right? This is what I just did. From there, you know, you upsell the best, most promising prospects into some sort of intimate group or one-on-one longer coaching. That's exactly what I did. And it worked, right? That format, because, you know, you're getting the data, talking to people. Like, so anyway, with the product, I'm also thinking, right? The mistake would be, I want to build Hamza level Adonis Academy right now, right? It's like, okay, what's everything that happens before that? I think, I'm not sure, like a very simple ebook, or as Dicky and Cole call it, educational email course. I think that would be where I would start with some sort of very clear A to B, right? That's what you're trying to do when you have those one-on-one calls. If you want to really get the most out of those one-on-one calls, it's not about the $100, right? It's worth more than $100 to you because you're going to get their painful point A, which is where they are right now, and their desirable point B. And then your coaching is the bridge, right? That gets them over the roadblock from A to B. So I think I'm now hypothesizing, making a hypothesis, right? That I'm talking about from experience with the coaching. But I assume it's similar with a product, right? It's like getting really clear on what is this A and what is this B, positioning my product, whether that's like literally just an ebook as the bridge. So that's what I'm thinking about now. So I guess I should get clearer on what would be that A and B for like persuasion. Would you agree? I think that sounds like you're like coaching me right now, bro.
No, we're helping each other. This is really cool.
Yeah.
What was your A to B for your coaching calls or the coaching thing you just launched right now?
So for the ghostwriter specifically, it was like at around like 1 to 2K a month. You don't really have any ghostwriting friends. You're kind of like doing this on your own, which is super painful. I've been there. You getting like some rewrites from your clients that like, I don't like this. Can you change this? You're not like super proud of the engagement that your client's stuff is getting. A couple other things. The B was 5K a month, right? I didn't make a guarantee, but I was like, that's where I want to take you because I've done that. I know it's possible, right? I didn't want to be like make 10K in 30 days, right? That's a scam.
Yeah.
That's just a scam. And so it was like 5K a month, which I truly believe each one of them could do, right? Because there's only 3 of them and I've highly vetted them. I said, I think this guy's smart with you. So that, a few ghostwriters, right? So I added them to a group chat I have with other ghostwriters. You're welcome to join too if you want. We talked about it a long time ago.
I do remember. Yeah.
Yeah, never came to fruition, but it's fine. Like a couple other things, but like, so and then it was like a layup. I like drew that on a whiteboard on the sales call. No pressure. Like it was just like, yeah, dude, you want to come? And they were like, yeah, let's go. So, and then for the personal branding, which might be more interesting to you, it's like lack of clarity, point A, lack of clarity, unconfident about writing skills, low engagement, very few friends on Twitter, 0 money, right? Then it was like clarity of brand, solid writing skills, consistently better engagement. You have a group of friends, you've made your first digital dollar. That's like the 4-week plan I'm taking these 2 people on. We'll see how it goes. But I think anyone with the right guidance could do that in 4 weeks. I'm not trying to promise.
I totally agree.
It's like, if you just get a very clear A to B and you're like, sure, it's good, man. It's fun.
For sure. And where did you learn all these tactics from?
A ghostwriting client, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, he's earned 6 figures as like with a mastermind. So a year. So it was like one time I wrote a post for him and it was like all great. Well, I won't say it exactly, but basically the point was that all great educational products have a clear A to B. Like that's the most important thing. It doesn't matter what the landing page is. Nothing matters. It's like getting dead clear on what is the A to B. That to me like made everything so much easier. It's so simple, but it makes such a difference.
It definitely does. And I know you were talking about that with Matt. And so we've been scheming on like, what is it A to B for our new things. So that's something I'm going to keep in mind. But you hit on something there with the ghostwriting that I think is even more valuable potentially than the money you make from the ghostwriting is the connections, right? Because you're literally getting paid to learn from these people who have already done big things. Because if somebody needs a ghostwriter, they've probably done some real stuff in the real world and they can pass that knowledge down to you. So you're almost like getting paid for a mentorship. It's unbelievable.
I would say that's the biggest benefit for sure. Like, of course, the cash is great. Like, it's great to make money. Money is fuel. But the mentor, like the literally paid mentorship is unreal, unmatched.
Yeah.
You reminded me of that.
So
it's easy to overlook, like it's just like it becomes the new normal. But like you're right. Like I'm grateful for that.
Totally. I totally agree. One topic I wanted to bring up that I was looking through your Twitter and you said you struggled with social anxiety at one point and you decided to do stand-up comedy. So like, where did that idea come from?
To do stand-up comedy?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like when I'll just bring it back a tiny bit. Like when I was like in middle school, I felt confident, whatever. But then one time I went to the beach with this Latino guy and this Italian guy, and I got super red summer. Maybe you can see my cheeks are still like kind of pink a little bit. And then I got acne like that same year. So I went from like being kind of confident to being super unconfident, super, yeah, like I always, after that for a long time, I struggled with my self-esteem. This was really, it was very painful, but I was very lucky to have this friend Rory in high school, and like he always kind of brought me around, and just watching him really helped with breaking out of that. But anyway, around that time, like around college, I also went to college with Rory too, which was super fun. He kind of, I kind of realized like shit, like almost everything I'm afraid of is like what I want. So it's like, I'm just going to do everything I'm afraid of. And then when I started doing that, there was this one girl who's like 2 years older than me. And I never assumed that she would be interested with me. And so then I just like tried, and we had this really fun time, this really fun night, like riding bikes to the beach late in my hometown. It's like, maybe too personal of a story, but just like after it happened, I was just like, wow, like that was wild. And it was like, it only happened because I took action, and just like realizing that like I didn't frame this well, but just the things I'm afraid of, doing them instead of not doing them, like changed everything. So then when I realized I was afraid to do stand-up comedy and the opportunity presented itself, I said, okay, I have to do stand-up comedy. And it wasn't even that good, but like, yeah, that was it. I did a bad job of explaining that, but like that was a big idea.
I love that point of like Derek Sivers talks about it too. He's like, whatever scares you, go do it. Right.
Yeah.
Because on the other side of that anxiety lies an opportunity that you never would have experienced. And I really admire the fact that you're able to like go up there and do stand-up comedy, because that is like the most vulnerable thing I could think of. What was it like going up there on stage for the first time?
Brutal. Like I had to throw up afterwards, and I just like stuffed my face with Indian food, like to stop myself from like needing to throw up. But yeah, brutal. Like I was really scared, and like not all my jokes landed. I also pushed the envelope a little bit. Like my girlfriend's from Turkey, and which is a Muslim country, and I told a story about when I met her Muslim father, which was a true story. But like I don't know if the Germans knew that I was like being serious. So I think they thought I was like making fun of. Yeah, like a couple of them like didn't land, and it was very, very scary. Because like think about that, what that is like to stand in front of the tribe and like have them be like, it's scary, man. But overall, it went okay, and like a few people at the end were like, it was really good, man. But like, it was good, man. I recommend it, especially like one of the benefits of leaving home is you get to try it, right? You get to there's less resistance. I don't know if you've read Epictetus at all, but like there was one passage that really stuck out with me. It's like he's like, that's why they say it's easier for philosophers to leave their home country, because they'll be like, oh, look at Jack trying to become a philosopher. Look at Jack thinking he's too cool for school. Look at Jack thinking he's too good for the corporate life. What does he think he knows, right? That's the drawback of staying at home. But now you're in Buenos Aires. Who gives a shit? It's like I'm just Jack in Buenos Aires. It's like so different.
Yeah, it's so freeing once you kind of shed those old identities. And that's the thing I think about leaving home. It's not necessarily like, oh, I have to leave to like get away from all these people. But in a way, it's like, okay, Alex Hormozy puts this really well. It's like, as an entrepreneur or somebody who's trying to change who they are as a person fundamentally, you're going to change every 6 to 12 months, even more quickly if you're doing new things and putting yourself in new situations. And so the problem with staying in the same spot is people know you since you were like 8 years old, right? And they know you since high school, and they know who you were in high school. And so all my high school friends, for example, know me as football player Jack, quarterback Jack, right? Like party Jack, right?
You were
But
quarterback?
now, yeah, I was. So
That's sweet,
it's
man.
totally a different perception of who I am now. And I'm super grateful for those points in my life. But at the same time, people treat you in that same way that you used to be, right? They assign old identities over you that you used to be. And now when you're trying to break into new identities, it's uncomfortable. It's like, wait, who even are you, right? And it's just this dissonance between who you were and who you're becoming. And I think as an entrepreneur, you have to become more than you currently are in order to grow, or else you're never going to grow as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. and you can have empathy for those people, like understand why that's so uncomfortable, right? It's like puts up a mirror. It's like, oh wait, Jack's different. Why is Jack different? Is there something wrong with me? Like you see this, you can kind of see why people get defensive when that happens. So like I learned to like not be upset about it anymore. It's just like, yeah, but it definitely is the case, when you change, and like it doesn't mean that everyone else had to change too. And yeah, it's like getting comfortable with shedding that, like a snake skin sort of,
Totally.
next chapter.
And so how do you deal with managing old relationships with friends, family, as you've kind of evolved and gone on your own journey now?
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky to have like parents who support me. They definitely keep still trying to get me to get a job, but which, but they just want my security, right? So I don't mind, like it's fine. It's just, yeah, try to make harmony there, right? Your parents are your parents, so that's one thing. But with the friend aspect, that's another question. There are very few people I keep in touch with from high school, from college. There are people that if I saw from college, I'd be very happy to see them. It's like it'd be a pleasure, right? I have great memories. It's just, I just think the wrong thing is to change yourself for other people, or like the biggest shame, let's say, like the most like loss is holding yourself back at the sake of trying to make other people feel okay about themselves. Because like when I stopped drinking, my friends were like, I was in a fraternity, and I wanted to stop drinking, right? I have alcoholism in my family, both sides of the family, right? German, Irish. And it was very clear to me that this is going in a bad direction. I really don't want this to be my life. And I knew where that leads to, right? I had witnessed it as a child. I knew exactly where I was going. And a lot of my friends, like they really, really didn't want to accept it. It's like, oh, come on, Woody. Like that was my name at college, Woody, not Connor. And like, oh, you don't drink anymore. You're so smart. And it's just like, what I did was, right, don't be a disruptor. That's what Peter Thiel says in 0 to 1. It's like PayPal was successful not because it disrupted the finance industry, but they innovated, right? And they still made the credit card companies money. If they had, like, the credit card companies would have jumped up on them. So I stopped telling people I wasn't drinking, and I just started filling my cup up with water or seltzer, and it went away, right? And I still, dude, that was great. I learned how to dance without drinking. That is, dude, 99% of men cannot do that. 99%
Yeah.
of men are not comfortable to move their hips without downing ethanol poison. So there's a lot of value in just doing your own thing. Yeah.
That's so cool, dude. That is so cool. I've gone through a similar stage. I'm not completely not drinking. Like I will
Same.
once in a while,
Right.
but maybe like a glass of wine. I had a glass of wine Saturday night. I just went to a cafe by myself, sat out there, smoked a cigarette, had a glass of wine, and read Man's Search for Meaning. um
Gorgeous.
but yeah, dude, sometimes like that's okay. Sometimes like relaxing and taking a chill is good, but I think the point about like developing confidence in social situations without the alcohol, it'll do so much for your personal growth. And
So
I love the point about not having to tell people you're not drinking, because if you have to tell people you're not drinking, then it just becomes like a virtue signal. It becomes, oh, I'm better than you because I'm not drinking. No, not necessarily true. But if you can go to the social setting and dance and have a good time and interact with people and just have a cup, like I'll do like Coke Zero, so then people think I'm like
good.
drinking like Jack and
Yeah.
Coke or something, but
Yeah.
I'm just drinking soda. But because they don't know, then it makes it better. But sometimes it's like people can judge you a little bit. Like if you order water or something, they're gonna be like, oh, like why are you ordering water? And it's just weird at first. But I think if you make it so that it's not weird to you that they're drinking and you're drinking water, like they will also be okay with it. But if you try to
100%.
judge them for it, then that's where the problem comes in.
And alcohol is like, there are genetic components to how alcohol affects you, right? Like
Mhm.
a lot of my friends can drink more than me, right? Like I cannot drink well. That will never. And my mom tried to tell me this when I was like 14. I just didn't want to listen. I was like, fuck this. Like, no, like I really was like, that's no, I wouldn't accept it. But now I look back and it's like, she was so right. Alcohol does
Mhm.
not impact me the same as it does the other kids. Doesn't change, like, just because the other kids can do that well, like, yeah, it's like comes back to self-awareness, you know. I just lacked self-awareness for so many years. And it was just, I was like, the same time, like not wearing sunscreen because the other kids didn't wear sunscreen. You know, it's the same exact. In German, there's a great German word, man. I love this word. I'm going to teach you it because it's great. It's called Denkfehler.
Dank fella.
Yeah, it means thought mistake. Denkfehler. I just, so that's a Denkfehler.
Oh,
You know, it's a thought mistake. Not wearing the sunscreen, thinking I can drink as much as the other kids who don't have alcoholism in their genes. Um, I don't know, but I never really made that bridge. So I appreciate you bringing these two topics up.
dude, I love the fact that you're able to use German to better understand reality, like right there.
There you
Because
go.
that, like, what can you repeat the meaning again? It was
Denken is to think. Denken. It's similar,
okay.
right? So denk
Yeah.
and Fehler. Fehler is mistake. Denkfehler. Thought mistake.
It sums up like false beliefs so succinctly, right? In like
True.
one little phrase. And there's nothing like that in English. And I think that's now I'm realizing like, okay, understanding different languages will help you understand yourself and your place in the world so much better. So cool. Tim Ferriss talks about that a lot too. So I gotta take your guys' advice on this stuff.
Send it, man. If you want, I'm dead serious. You can call me. We can talk about Spanish. I'll set you up, get you a checklist. Do just checklists, right? Systems work better than goals. Just a daily checklist. What you're going to do, when you're going to do it, where you're going to do it.
Yeah,
3 months. Boom. Like that's it.
dude. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna take you up on that.
Hell yeah.
But before we hop off, because this has been, I think, probably a bit over an hour now, but you seem like a very organized, systematized guy. You've got
Wow.
classes, you've got a girlfriend, you've got a coaching business. You're also writing on Twitter,
Mhm.
newsletter. It seems like a lot, right? You're reading a lot too. It seems like how are you making time for all this? So what's a daily routine looking like for you right now?
I'll just show you something that might, because I'm actually not an organized guy, right? That's one of my weaknesses that's come up time and again. But I got this thing this year, and every Sunday, dude, I plan like crazy. And I
Same.
have one top goal. Oh, nice, dude. I got one top goal.
I
You
got
got
it
one
right
too.
here.
Let's go.
Dude, we're crazy nerds on money Twitter. This is so funny.
Yeah. So this is like the only way. Like the other thing is like I got really good at avoiding my phone in the morning. Wait, so can you repeat the question exactly? Make sure I'm answering it well.
Yeah, I just asked like, what's a daily routine for you now? And I
Daily routine.
love going into the nuances of like avoiding your phone and stuff because that stuff is all so important for me too.
So I'll break down a day where, like, an ideal day where I don't have class, because it's a little bit different
Okay.
if I have class at school. But I like teaching at school too. But like, um, no, the internet's way better though because you can teach whatever you want.
Yeah.
You can teach more interesting stuff. But so if I, like, let's say, like, ideally wake up at 6, and this is gonna sound like super try hard, super nerdy, but this is my morning routine. I brush my teeth, then I drink warm water with ginger. The reason I drink warm water is because I learned this from the Chinese. The Chinese treat hot water. I don't like hot water. They're like, it's too hot, it's annoying. It's like warm. Um, as like a heal all. It's really true, man. It really, really improves my digestion throughout the day if I drink hot water
Okay.
in the morning. So I drink hot water, then I stretch, then I meditate. I practice TM just because. You too, or
What is TM?
transcendental meditation.
Go into that.
It's just simple. Like it's like vipassana with a mantra. Like instead of focusing on your breath, you focus on a mantra. But it's like it's just it doesn't matter. You know, it's like whatever meditation works for you, right? So,
Yeah.
but I learned this during college, and so I kept doing it, and I like it. It's fine. Then I'll read for like a half hour. Then I go to Espresso House. So Espresso House is sick. All right, it's not that good, but it's a Swedish Starbucks, and they have a 15 euro a month black coffee deal. You pay 15 euros, black coffee every 2 hours. It's incredible.
Dude, that
Incredible,
sounds like
bro.
heaven. Yeah.
Heaven. So I go there usually, get my first work done. Like they're like there are three big repetitive tasks I have: ideation, writing, and editing, right? And I do those on different days. So depending on the day, like that would be something I do, or I plan something for my coaching clients. or if something, now I'm going to try to spend more time on like product during that time. Then I would have lunch, then go to the gym. Then like from like 6 to 8 is when I have sales calls and like catch up calls, like whatever. So that's like a day, like an ideal day. Yeah. And but
Simple.
one thing about that though is like, oh, and I'd walk before I go to espresso house if I don't have school. And one thing though, dude, is like I don't have a car. I haven't had a car for years since I've been in Germany. I have a bicycle. It's fucking sick. Like
Yeah.
I just ride a bike, dude. So every commute is exercise and enjoyable and wind in my face. Like I cannot tell you how much better my quality of life is because I don't have to drive a car everywhere.
Dude, I'm the same way. I was so attached to my car, especially in high school. And I do love driving, but like I think the belief that you can live without a car for a lot of people that grew up in like suburban America. Did you grow up in the suburbs?
I did, yeah. In the car, yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about right now. Like
The car is a staple of life. You can't survive without the car, right? But when you live in these new places like in Germany or like places that have infrastructure that was made to walk and bike. Like it is so cool. Like I walk everywhere here in Buenos Aires. I get like 15K steps a day. I'm getting sunlight. And it's like, I feel like
exactly.
my quality of life is so much higher. I can listen to podcasts all the time while I walk. Like it's phenomenal.
Exactly, dude. Yeah, it's just it's like maybe we'll end with this. Like it's 80-20 again. You know, it's like environmental design in like Americans are always talking about like, oh, I gotta get my steps. Like, oh, and like, you know, I gotta get my steps in. Europeans just get steps. You know, it's like,
Yes.
of course there's exceptions, but like it's like the glass that the water in is way more important than like how much water is in the glass. I don't know if that's a bad metaphor, but like something
I know
like
what
it.
you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. And I visited Europe this summer and my observation was like, okay, I'm in Italy. All people are eating is pizza and pasta and drinking at damn near every day. And everybody's skinny. Like, how is it possible? But it's like that lifestyle design setup, right? Everybody walks everywhere. You don't have to like set time to like, oh, I'm gonna go get my 10,000 steps. It just happens as a
Yeah.
byproduct of your environment.
Yeah. So I think that's probably if like the biggest lever for Americans, if we could figure out like some better ways of organizing our living spaces. I think
Yes,
that would right, like
completely
it's
agree.
I want to ask you one more question if you don't mind. Um,
Yeah, go for it.
so you lived in the suburbs, went to college, now you're in Buenos Aires. Like, what are your thoughts on like places to live or what? I know it's a terrible question, but like, what are you thinking like for the future for you? Because now you've created an income online. I'm curious, what are you leaning towards next year, next 2 years?
Yeah, so I'm planning on being here for about the next 2 months, and I like it here. There's a lot of great aspects. It's very convenient. The cost of living is great. The weather is really
Yeah,
great, but it's a bit too big of a city for me, I think. I think I'm more of a small type of city, more nature type of guy. And I'm just realizing that recently, but I love being able to disconnect from technology and get into nature and immerse myself in it because and Matt and I have been talking a lot about this, like scheming our next move. And we're thinking a couple places, potentially Bali is on the short list for sure. But that's so overcrowded now and like costs are rising, so that might not be the move. But one place we're looking into is Madeira. It's an island off the coast of Africa, but it's like a Portuguese island, and it's a bit smaller, more intimate, cheap cost of living, good nomad community, which would be cool. And like
yeah,
a couple things that I'm missing here are like that small community of people who you can really interact with because this city is huge, right? And to go even get into nature is pretty tough. And we're on computers all day doing online business, and then we go out and it's like concrete and like buildings and everything, right? And I'd love to be
right.
able to get into nature more. But yeah, I'm gonna throw it right back at you. Like, what are you thinking for the next couple moves? Or are you gonna stay put in Germany?
Yeah, so my visa slash scholarship is coming to an end in July 1st. Probably going to spend the summer on Long Island at my parents' house. You know, still do everything, but it's quite hard for me to be productive there. So
Yeah.
by September, I'll be thinking about where to move again. But Depends, man. It's hard exactly to say, but I would say a big priority for me is, like you said, like community. It's like that one weekend with the Barcelona boys, dude, crazy. And like all the success I had from coaching is direct consequence of the conversations we had there. I wasn't even
Yeah.
thinking of offering high ticket coaching until we were like, they like annihilated my false beliefs in like 2 hours, which would have taken me 6 months to figure out myself.
Mm-hmm. Such an advantage to living with people or being around people doing the same stuff as you. Such an advantage. Like, so I was in college just like a month and a half, 2 months ago, and like really, really smart people. Like these people are fucking way smarter than I am. However, we're just playing different games. They're all playing the like startup game, the investment banker game, etc. And I'm trying to play this money Twitter online game. And like I can't really relate to them about it, right? So the conversations are never around it. But now that like I'm here with Matt and like it's pretty much just us and we're in the same situation, very similar point, all we talk about is this. And the growth I've experienced in this month has just been unbelievable. And now I can't see myself ever turning back.
From living with people on a similar mission
Exactly.
or around. Yeah, dude, I like it. I like that, man. Sounds good.
Yeah, bro. Well, dude, this was such a fun conversation. We're gonna have to like definitely revisit this maybe in like a year, every year or something to see where we're both at. This will be sweet.
I'd love to, man. I had a great time. Thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Hell yeah. Thank you for coming on.
Anytime.